Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. A couple of weeks ago, we had Dr. Dan Lawson, who is the Director of Schools for Tullahoma, on the show for just a general briefing for the year. And in the beginning, I asked him a little bit about the discussions that are going on about converting to electronic textbooks instead of paper. And that turned out to be a subject that we thought we ought to pay a little more attention to, and that you're going to be vitally interested in and affected. So we've decided to get into that a little further, and we've got Dr. Lawson is here again today, and he has brought along with him two of his staffers, who are Miss Susan Sudbury, who is a Tullahoma High School math teacher, and Dr. Lawson has designated her as the teacher of teachers for the new system they're looking at. And next to her is Dr. Greg Carter, who is the Director of Personnel for the Tullahoma school system, and is also playing a pretty strong role in this effort. So with that, and it looks like, folks, that we probably are not going to be able to accomplish this in one show, what we'd like to show you. So we're going to probably do it in two shows, so you'll need to stay tuned. Dr. Lawson, how committed is Tullahoma? Where are you?
Yeah, I think very much so. As we started this dialogue began with a 3-year discussion and looking out 3 years to make this happen. As we've involved folks like the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, our mayor, our Board of Education, there's a lot of anticipation and there's a great deal of expectation to implement sooner rather than later, and to put the best technology and the best instructional materials in our kids' hands today. All you need, for starters, is a little money. You know, I'm saying that way too much when I'm on, but I'm afraid you're exactly right, sir.
Okay, well that, folks, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll come back and go to business.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard, because residents matter most.
This is J.D. Oliver here at the Smokehouse on Mount Eagle Mountain. My sisters Betsy, Nancy, and I'd like to thank you for supporting our family business for over 50 years.
Hello, this is Stella Parton, and I am standing here right in the middle of Jim Oliver's Smokehouse restaurant. But you need to come in here. We just got through doing a show. We also have a music scene going on here, and I want to invite you to come down because it is your mountain destination. Music on the Mountain in Mount Eagle, Tennessee.
My name's Betsy Oliver. I'm the kitchen manager here. We serve a lot of ribs and barbecue and fried chicken.
Hey, this is Sean Mayer, and I just want to let everybody know to stop in at the Smokehouse if you're ever on your way to Chattanooga or Nashville. They not only have a great gift shop, awesome food, great entertainment on Saturday nights, but beautiful cabins to stay in. Check it out.
Make the Smokehouse your mountain getaway destination. Stay in one of our 84 lodge rooms and 20 timber frame log cabins. Look around our trading posts and eat in our delicious restaurant. Enjoy music on the mountain every Saturday night featuring the best of Nashville. Our family hopes to see you this year at Jim Oliver Smokehouse.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today about the ongoing effort beginning in Tullahoma to go to electronic textbooks, a big change. And we have with us Dr. Dan Lawson, the Director of Tullahoma Schools, and he's brought along Susan Sudbury, who is a math teacher at Tullahoma High and is also going to teach the rest of the teachers how this works. And also we have Dr. Greg Carter, who is the Director of Personnel for the Tullahoma school system. Replaced longtime Whalen. So with that, let me ask each of you to give the folks a little background on you. Susan?
My name is Susan Sudbury. I was hired in 1994 to teach math at Tullahoma High School. I taught Algebra 1 honors and Algebra 2 honors, as well as computational science. In 2003, Dr. Lawson had faith in me to put me in a technology training position in order to teach teachers how to use computer-related software, as well as find software that they would like to incorporate into the classroom.
Have you still continue to teach in the meantime?
I'm no longer teaching math, but I am teaching teachers at every school.
Okay, so this is not a new job. All right, Greg?
I'm Greg Carter, born and raised in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Started 20 years ago at Tullahoma High School as a social studies teacher. Helped coach football and tennis there. Eventually moved on to be an assistant principal at East and West Middle Schools. From there, became the principal at Tullahoma High School for a few years, and then moved back to West as principal there. And after 7 years at West, moved to this new position this summer. And you mentioned replacing Waylon Long. That won't happen. I'm following his path and doing my best to catch up.
Okay, very good. And well, you had a little trouble trying to decide where you wanted a principal, huh?
I identify with our students who struggle with ADHD.
Okay, very good. Well, with that, folks, let's get Dr. Lawson to give us a short opening summary of what this is all about and what we're doing and how come.
Yeah, Tom, I think the best way to characterize where we are is we wanted to start this program, we wanted to implement this with the intent of providing a pathway, providing a roadway to allow every student in our school system to get online and enjoy digital technology. So step one in our plan was to put in a parallel network that was somewhat secure and provided our students the ability to walk in with their own device. And it's not device specific. Our students can come in with a phone, they can come in with a MacBook, they can come in with a Chromebook, an iPad. It really doesn't matter. But that was step one. Step two was to take what we're calling open source digital content. In other words, textbook materials, and put those textbook materials on the digital devices that our students have. And then step three is to look at a way to acquire more digital carriers to carry that digital content. For our kids...
What do you mean by carrier?
Yeah, great question. For our kids who don't have sufficient resources to buy this Chromebook or this iPad, we wanted to supplement that, and we wanted as a school system to take the money that we're now spending on textbooks and instead spend it on this technology. So the three things we're talking about are: first, put in a network that everyone can access. We've checked that off the list. That's done. Second, we're looking at moving from a publisher-driven environment to an open source environment, and that's what Susan's going to talk about. And then third, how can we provide additional technology to put in every child's hands regardless of their street address? Okay.
Well, with that then, let's get to Susan. Susan's going to take us, I believe, you're just going to take us into the electronic classroom, right?
Talk to you a little bit about what open educational resources mean for teachers in the classroom, as well as an example of what an electronic textbook would look like.
Okay.
Open educational resources provides teacher with content that they can examine, evaluate, and improve based upon Common Core standards, as well as what they see as valuable material to be presented in the classroom.
Who's setting the Common Core standards?
Common Core standards are national standards.
Okay.
Okay. CK12 is the leader in this open educational resource movement. There are lots of websites online now that have high quality digital material, but CK12 seems to be the leader at the forefront of all this, the beginning of this. CK12.org refers to something called a flexbook. And when you hear the term flexbooks, we're just simply talking about an electronic textbook that teachers can obtain content freely, and they can They can reuse that content, they can redistribute that content, they can create, they can edit. So basically, they're not limited to what was printed in that textbook at the time 6 years ago when that textbook was adopted, possibly.
Well, that's a good point. We might just mention that the cycle for written textbooks, printed textbooks, is you get a new one about every 6 years. Now you're able to update continuously, I guess, if you want to.
That is correct. And the great thing about ck12.org is the content and the flex books that they published are Common Core aligned, and they're also aligned to the National Science Educational Standards as well. So we've already got that alignment in place before those books are even published, which is very important, you know, in the educational environment.
Tom, I'm sure this will surprise you, but I need to jump in real quick. Okay. Our average textbook cost about $90 today. So we're talking about a substantial expenditure. We're looking at nearly $400,000 a year in our system. And I'm sure if you think about Coffee County or Warren County, Bedford County, some of the other folks who are also viewing, they have the same parallel expenditures going on.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Electronic textbooks can be downloaded in a PDF version. That file can be accessed from any smart device. It's not platform specific, which makes this invaluable in the classroom. A student could put it on their phone, they could put it on their iPad, their Chromebook, it doesn't matter. Another great thing about the electronic textbook is the fact that you don't have to have Wi-Fi or the wireless access in order to look at the content that is presented inside the textbook. However, if there are...
You don't have to have it.
You don't have to have Wi-Fi to access the content, the material, just like in a hard copy textbook. You don't have to have any kind of access to be able to open up a book and read the content that's presented inside of it.
That's because you can download it for starters?
That is correct.
Okay.
You can download, just like your income tax form is presented in a PDF file, that's the same way the flex books are presented, or electronic textbooks are presented as well.
Okay.
So a student can access it. If there are videos embedded or inserted in that file, then a student would not be able to access those videos if they did not have wireless internet. But just like in a regular textbooks, they couldn't watch a video within the hard copy of a textbook either. They may point them to a site that they could go to, but they could not actually access it. So that's another great thing about the electronic textbooks is you can download it and you don't have to have the Wi-Fi to access the material. But there are videos in there. If they do have it, they can go above and beyond what's presented.
And Tom, let me clarify before we get into the next break. I know that the concern about not having wireless at home may be somewhat of a concern, but when we think about community centers, libraries, McDonald's, any number of places, our schools before and after, yeah, all these places have Wi-Fi readily available. Right. So our kids can get that very quickly if they don't have it at home.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, as long as we've interrupted Susan's presentation a bit, let's just go ahead and take a short commercial break, and we'll come right back, folks.
Hi, Grandma. It's Jake. I'm calling to tell you I love you more than anything in the whole wide world, even ice cream. I love you more than spaghetti and meatballs. I love you more than snakes and monkeys and sharks and whales and praying mantises. Bye, Grandma. Love you.
Let it all in with Charter Phone, including unlimited local and long-distance calls.
back, folks, and we're talking today about the exciting new development in the education field of going to electronic text instead of the printed material. And we have with us Dr. Dan Lawson, who's Director of Tullahoma Schools, Dr. Greg Carter, who is Director of Personnel for the school system, and Miss Susan Sudbury, who is has been a math teacher, and she is now the designated teacher of the teachers and how to go about this. So, Susan, we pick up where you left off before the break.
Being a classroom teacher, one of the problems or challenges that I had to address was the fact that printed material or in the textbooks was outdated by the time I received it in the classroom. With an electronic textbook, you can create, edit, share, reuse, redistribute the material within the book. My task that I was charged with was to create a flex book, electronic textbook, see how easy it was to create it, and be able to look at how the process would be to update and add information. Over the weekend, I created a flex book that contained several different lessons that you could find being taught in any classroom, middle school or high school, any school in Tullahoma cities, any day. One of the standards that teachers teach is based upon the planets. And so I got to looking at Mars because our whole pop culture is infatuated with the planet Mars. So I created my flex book over the weekend, and I was kind of listening to the news about Curiosity, wondering if it was going to land successfully. And at 12:31 a.m. on Monday, Curiosity landed and it was successful. So when I was looking at my lesson that I had put in my flex book, it left off with the sentence of, and in August 2012, Curiosity, a car-sized rover, will be launched to Mars. And that was the end of the lesson. At that point in time, I went out on the internet, I found some information about Curiosity, and I was able to update that electronic textbook to reflect the fact that Curiosity had landed on Mars and it was a successful mission.
And if you were in print, it might be 4, 5, 6 years before you would get that.
And I have an example of my flex book that I created, if you would like to see an example of what it looks like.
Sure.
This is an example of a lesson on Mars. And just like with any regular textbook, you have printed material. And the first part of this gives a description on Mars, starting with Orson Welles' broadcast in 1938, as well as the characteristics of Mars. It talks about it being a red planet. It gives some pictures of Mars. It talks about the geological formations that are on Mars, and it just basically all the information that students need to know about Mars is presented in this chapter.
Just like all we know at present.
At present, that is correct. Yeah. Just like what you would see in a normal textbook that students have in class today. However, at the end, as I was saying, it ended with a sentence that talked about Curiosity being launched in 2012. And for the sake of this show, I highlighted what I inserted into this lesson. I inserted a video for my students to see about how Mars has been put into our pop culture. I also inserted a video about the 7 minutes of terror, because on the news, scientists were talking a lot about the 7 minutes of terror, whether or not Curiosity would be alive or dead.
That's the last 7 minutes when it had to decelerate from something like 30,000 miles.
Exactly.
Yeah, down to a soft landing.
But one of the most amazing videos that I was enabled to embed in this file had to do with the fact that the scientists were so excited about the fact that the Curiosity had landed that you would have thought Drew Brees had won the Super Bowls. They were so ecstatic about, and it shows a video with them being ecstatic that we saw all over CNN. And so it was really nice to be able to update that information. I also if you'll notice at the end of the lesson, there are questions that students answer, review questions about the material that's being presented within the lesson, just like you get in a regular textbook. So all the material that's presented in textbooks is also presented in an electronic textbook as well.
Okay.
I also have a chapter on supersymmetry in the Higgs boson.
Yeah.
We learned about the God particle July the 4th this year.
Very recent, very, very significant physics outcome.
That is correct. All kinds of information at the end of the lesson. It talked about if the Higgs particle exists, then this might be the standard table that it would look like if it existed. So right after that, I basically was able to put in there to my students, hey, it does exist. And they proved it, they confirmed it July the 4th, 2012. I gave them all kinds of information about the Higgs boson.
Sure did.
As well as was able to put some videos if they would like to go watch about what is Higgs boson and NASA's comic approach to explaining Higgs bosons to students.
Okay.
There's also several different lessons in there. Dealing with sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks is a standard that we have to teach in earth science. Kids understand what sedimentary rocks are. They can read the information, they can memorize the information, but sometimes they don't get it until you actually make that connection. In this lesson, I was able to make the connection from the standpoint of, yeah, here's what a sedimentary rock is, here's the characteristics of a rock, but guess what? Tennessee, one of its natural resources is limestone, and limestone is a sedimentary rock. So within this lesson,
We've got lots
of sediment. So within that lesson, I was able to talk to them about limestone, put a website link to the Tennessee State website when they declared limestone as Tennessee's state rock. Also have a video in there explaining about or showing them how limestone is excavated from a quarry here in Savannah, Tennessee. So it makes that connections for the student, as well as talk about Tennessee marble. That's not a marble, it's actually limestone.
Yeah, that was interesting. So our marble is a sedimentary rock.
That's
also,
right.
huh?
That is correct.
You just said something I wasn't aware of. I didn't know we had a state rock.
We do. In 1979, I believe is what the website says, that it was declared our state rock.
Okay.
See, you learned something by information being inserted into an electronic textbook.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're saying in the standard textbook, you would have not gotten the Tennessee treatment.
Exactly.
So you have inserted that. You were able to insert that from somewhere. Where was your source? Where'd you go to get it?
Some of the videos are produced on YouTube. Some of them are from state websites, and they give you the ability to be able to share those so that you can put them in your textbooks.
Okay.
Tom, I think you captured a great question, and that great question is, how do we make sure that we're vetting material and we have material that's actually aligned with standards? Because I don't want 250 different textbooks printed and used in my classes, and I don't want the outcome of the Second World War to change. There are some things that are absolute, that are facts, that need to be vetted and approved by a team and a group to make sure that the standards we're teaching and incorporating in these books are factually based and are aligned with our standards.
Well, that's a good point, and I did hope we could get into that. And that's the question of who is it that controls this? You know, how do you make sure that?
Yeah, today it's the State Textbook Commission, and each school system has a committee that determines which textbooks they're going to adopt. As we move to this environment, it's going to become more and more of a challenge.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to run out of time, at least in the initial show. So we're probably going to have to finish up with Susan next time around. So meanwhile, we're going to have to wind up, and let's do that. Take a break at the moment.
You've won just about everything there is to win in racing. What's next?
I'd like more people to know about ER Extra.
The emergency room at Harton Regional Medical Center?
I just want them to get the best care they can get.
That just gets me right here, Mark.
Maybe you'd like to pay them a visit.
ER Extra at Harton Regional Medical Center.
ER Extra. Extra fast, extra easy, extra great.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We're back, folks, and we have been talking today about the upcoming use of electronic textbooks. And Miss Susan Sudbury has taken us into the classroom, so to speak. She has a little video that we'd like to show you, and then we're going to have to finish this next time.
As I was telling you before, I was able to put some information in about curiosity, and I'd like to see what my students would actually see in the classroom.
Curiosity is our landing on Mars a week or so ago.
They're looking good. Coming up on entry. Vehicle reports entry interface.
And Tom, we have a little bit of a challenge of getting sound here, but our students would have sound right now and the dialogue of what actually was going on in Houston.
On the order of 11 to 12 Earth keys.
They would hear what's going on in the control room.
Yes, sir.
We are now getting telemetry from Odyssey.
Those guys went wild when they landed.
We should have parachute deploy around Mach 1.7. The parachute is deployed. We are decelerating. Heat shield has separated. We're on the ground. We're down to 90 meters per second at an altitude of 6.5 kilometers descending.
There's a quick example, and we can go on and on, but Tom, there's a quick example of what we could do right now with digital textbooks.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, we need to wind up for this show. I want to make sure that you stay tuned because we have a following show that will finish our session this time, primarily with Dr. Greg Carter. So stay with us, and we will see you again. Bye-bye.
Was it slow?